more, again, both in the technologies and stuff like that. It's called digital twins. Have you heard of a digital twin?
I have not, but
So,
I thought you were my digital twin.
we are. And but mostly on the high holy days, but kind of unusual. We're just kind of, the digital twin kind of crosses a various verticals when it comes to, having a hard object, a infrastructure of a network, a game that you're opening, anything like that. When you have that, and then you have a digital version of it, right? And then, so that's your digital twin. So putting your digital, Ian Ross twin, and kind of taking it to see where it kind of wants to go and how you kind of, fit in it, and, kind of foods that you even like, and, and kind of any number of things. So the digital twin in the metaverse is a forecast that we could see a lot more of that kind of going on. So, keep an eye out for, kind of for that kind of stuff and those other kind of technologies.
Okay.
So the other growth, and again, there was some of this already, pre-pandemic, which is going to be the kind of global, environmental aspect of travel. Again, both, and we're seeing it so much more now when it comes to sustainability and kind of expectations for both, the big corporate world and personally. We've identified some other signals and such when it comes to that, but it was a bucket list of mine, when I was at Orbitz, to go to Costa Rica, and Costa Rica, I remember, did have a environmental package, right, for users. I mean, for visitors who wanted to go and, again, experience, some much more deeper aspects, of that and take a part of it. So we're starting to see some technologies. There's a company called, I believe it's Archer, that is working with United Airlines, who has put in $1 billion order with this company to produce a environmentally friendly airplane. So it's all electric, no nothing, no fumes, nothing else kind of going out there. The entire global air industry has committed to reach carbon zero by 2050, which is right around the corner, whatever.
Right down the block.
Right down the block. So here we go again across, various different technologies, right? So climate, initiatives being important. So new technologies in aircrafts, as I mentioned. Current aircrafts are going to be kind of changed to hydrogen fuel.
Yeah.
And including, even the current engines are going to have to be much more efficient, in kind of across the board. Oh, I was wrong. The name of the commuter electronic plane is called Alice, not Archer. I was wrong. Yeah.
If you look at any of the pluses of what's gone on in the last 2 years, Rich, with the pandemic, is when people stopped traveling and airplanes stopped flying and cruise lines stopped cruising, the canals in Venice were clean, animals were out, and I believe it kind of sparked more of an interest in the sustainability and environmental challenges we have. Now airlines are looking to have a better carbon footprint. Okay, thank you. Are looking to have a better carbon footprint. Destinations that we're working with are really talking more about sustainability, for have people who visit leave things as they were before they got there. Enough of the litter and the garbage and the overcrowding and the over-tourism. So if there was any kind of silver lining in the pandemic, it was that it gave us all that light bulb moment saying, we need to take care of our earth. I've always maintained that I wanted my children and my grandchildren to know what a polar bear looks like, other than what they see in the Museum of Natural History. So, if we all can travel respectively and keep what's in front of us for years to come, we'll be in a better place. Because, the sea tides are rising, the polar caps are melting, and we're certainly in a crisis as a world, and it's really up to all of us especially for those that like to travel, to keep things, healthy. And now I'm off my soapbox on that.
um, this is just some, more information about Alice. I just thought that both you and, the 6 viewers would like to see what the inside of the ship looks like,
Go ask Alice.
maybe that's their theme song that we need.
I would not think that's the right theme song for them, but
The one part about about Digital Wheel of Fortune and kind of holistically again in 2022 is about light and sound, right? And there's so much newer technologies that have evolved out of some older technologies that only have to deal with light and sound. And so a lot of the electronic car, when futurists get together and vote around the electronic car and how it's going to change the world. Now we're kind of seeing an electronic plane. It's going to be a little bit of an odd question, but there's going to be no noise with that plane, right? And no noise with electronic cars. If kind of, we think about how that's going to affect people, like getting on a plane and not hearing anything.
I don't think that's going to affect people. I mean, let's turn it around.
No, I mean in a positive way, if you want to look at it.
I'm just saying, like the first time I ever took a cruise, when you are laying down and all of a sudden you hear the engines roaring and the propellers going, it's a bit unnerving. It's tough to settle down. And likewise with an airplane, there's still a lot of people, and I have family members that are like that, that as soon as you hear the wheels going down, it's like, gripping your seat. So again, it's like anything else, Rich, it's just an evolution. And if it means it's a quieter ride and a quieter trip, we'll get used to it. People are also wearing more and more earbuds and AirPods and headpieces where you may not even be listening to what's going on. When you have a noise canceling headphone, you don't know what's going on around you.
We'll get used to it. We'll adapt, as the Borg say.
Absolutely. I'd rather hear an engine than a noisy person sitting next to me.
Someone asking stupid questions or something like that. Right?
I don't listen. I don't talk to anybody on planes.
The last technology that I track as a signal is carbon capture, kind of across the board as a sector. But there are planes that are working on that too. So almost kind of out there, as they're traveling, they're going to be harnessing and gathering, all the carbon and, bad stuff in the air and kind of do something with it, once they get back. So exciting times, kind of across the board.
I definitely agree that, we've learned a lot over the last couple of years, and we're poised for exciting times. And, the bottom line is travel and tourism and vacations and leisure or staycations are not going anywhere. They're just been enhanced and evolved, and we'll be okay with it, and we'll be okay for it. It's just adapting, and it's just human nature. I mean, unfortunately, it had to happen at such a cost, but we've survived, and we'll grow stronger as a result.
The last kind of sector I want to share, or not even sector, but more, it's kind of more, as futurists have various different tools to help us forecast, into the future. As I mentioned, signals, signaling, being signal wise and knowing, kind of where that all goes to, and then kind of running, scenarios, with people. I think gamification again is a very strong tool.
Right.
When you kind of turn certain life scenarios into a game and have people, because we all have the answer. We all can see the future. We just have to, everyone has their little bit. And then when we kind of put it together, again, we have a very comfortable, sense about where we're going with that.
Right.
So one of the other tools is retrofuturism. So looking at the past and looking for patterns that are always there. The term is history doesn't repeat itself, patterns repeat themselves.
Okay.
And so I would like to just address some of the old patterns that we experienced through the last global pandemic, which is the Spanish flu, and kind of build
I remember it well.
right, you know. And I was always upset about the whole, misbranding part of it. Do you remember why they called it the Spanish flu?
I don't recall, but I remember reading it, but refresh my memory.
Right. It had, it was originally identified in Spain.
Okay.
So it had nothing to do, there were no dirty Spanish people or kind of anything like that. They were the first people to kind of identify it, put it into a newspaper and all that. So everybody kind of called it, the Spanish flu.
I guess that was a layup. I should have known that answer.
I'm going to, it only killed a third of the planet. So, it was rough times. And also there was a war going on.
It certainly wreaked havoc on Teddy Roosevelt and his troops in San Juan.
Again, and wasn't pretty anywhere.
Yeah. Actually, World War I. I'm sorry.
I'm going to share my screen again.
Okay.
Because I just want to show some pictures. Pictures are worth 1,000 words. And I'll get there somewhere. Okay. So you can see it now, right?
That looks like my former company.
Yep, this is a 1919 police force, out there wearing masks, doing a lot of all the fun stuff that we had to do, and whatever. So it's an old, not a new problem. Let's just say I'm kind of wearing with that. But and again, this kind of leads into the whole safety, and again at this time, people are kind of breaking out, right? The Spanish flu has been under control; it's not gone. And people are starting to kind of break out of their shells, and that's kind of exactly where we are now. And I just want to see, again, if there aren't kind of any crazy parallels. So this is an open air flu hospital, right? One would think, why would they want to jam all these sick people in one place when no rooms, no break? Do you know why?
Tell me why.
You can turn into a thing. Research had found that fresh air was such a big difference. So fresh flowing air than versus a stagnant one room air that had such a big aspects when it came to the cure. When it came to or ways that the body would heal itself better. So everybody was put into an open hospital. So again, there's going to be that push for fresh air, that push for kind of for opening, to be in open spaces. And that's going to, coming out now. We talked about the safety, right? Cleaning planes, cleaning hotels. The only difference in that time was that the pandemics were spread by trains and by ships versus planes, because planes didn't have such a wide reach just yet. Just starting. There's some really great first class, that I'll show you here. Keep your windows open. Here's my favorite one. Here's a policeman fighting a person because they didn't want to wear their mask going onto the train. Sound familiar? Is that something kind of going on?
It sounds familiar.
Isn't it freaky? That we have that same,
like you said, parallels and history does repeat itself, and sometimes we just never learn.
Right. Restrictions from closing schools, closing churches, closing full cities, requiring people to, again, being stuck in one area. And here's the aftermath. Here's the beaches. Beaches became such a big destination, in post pandemic. And so everybody was running locally, at least nationally, to kind of getting around.
Right.
So probably be very easy to forecast that the next future travel destination is going to be a lot of beach, a lot of outside.
But that's how it was last summer, Rich.
Right.
You know, where out in a lot of destinations that didn't have beaches, even cities were focusing on the outdoor. It wasn't about the indoor attractions or the indoor museums. It was the outdoor side. Every ad, every video, every banner talked about the outdoor activities, the things to eating outside, the shopping outside. So we certainly focused in on that. And of course, if you had a beach destination, that's why the Caribbean had an exceptional Q3 and into Q4, as did Florida, because people were outdoors. They could eat outside. They could swim outside. They had the beaches. Anything that was exposed was a plus. That's why the cities, the urban environments, took more of a backseat to some of the secondary destinations that were more open environments.
There was some quote here about what happens when you take 1 million people, who have been in a normal home environment, for all this time, and then just toss them, into the world, into activity, traditional homes, villages, the towns, borders all broke. Again, we see that already, just what we were talking about earlier on. Again, the plane was just starting, the airlines, but only the very rich were able to afford to kind of, to use planes around, around that time, which is going to lead you back into the whole leisure part of it. I think the airlines, cruise ships, kind of all the destinations, will be pushing for the, I don't call it ultra leisure, but really pushing a lot of leisure for that pent up environment, and again, newer experiences and such. So this is the first class on an old plane. Isn't that awesome? Look how comfortable everybody is.
Oh,
and I think that, and if I'm not wrong, I think that's a speaker. So they're playing music, that's fun. But the airlines learned that that's where the money was, and a lot of people are using it, and they expanded it out into, a very extra luxurious experience on the plane. Right. I know I forgot, there's some brands, airline brands that are already doing that, but I can foresee a lot more planes being reconfigured for much more of a luxury experience, sleeping, playing, bathing.
The goal is to make the traveling public safe and secure and as comfortable as possible. And technology will certainly aid in that. Building up the labor force and people that want to be excited to do these things will aid in that. And it's only, we're getting better. And again, as I've said before, it's an evolution, and we're just building on what we've always had that was good. Just took a side swipe last year, but building our way back up.
And then we can't do travel correctly if we don't talk about cruise lines. So, and again, as we started, pre Omnicom, that there was how popular cruise lines were, even though they were still considered, maybe not safe, or people were still getting sick, or kind of things like that, that they still filled up. Do you know how they're doing now when it comes to?
The cruise lines are doing well. Obviously they burned a lot of cash over the last couple of years, and certain cruise lines like Crystal is kind of falling by the wayside. But the Norwegians and the Carnivals, the Royal Caribbeans, the Celebrities, found different means to quote unquote stay afloat, no pun intended. But unfortunately, they were the poster children of COVID. But they've certainly taken the precautions at hand and doing what they can. And the bottom line is, even though this was a bumpy first quarter because of Omicron, people didn't totally cancel. They kind of put off their cruising to maybe the back half of the year, the fall, and into 2023. So, the cruising industry has really had to adapt, and they've had to really battle because, as I said, they were the poster children for COVID. I mean, every time you looked on the TV 2 years ago, you saw a cruise ship. But they weren't, they weren't immune to these things, and or certainly took the precautions to make cruising better, because cruising still is a wonderful and tremendous way to travel.
What a great experience. Again, that taste
Yeah,
of
absolutely.
luxury, taking you to places, that you've never been to before,
Right.
exotic, areas. Again, you will not be able to, to mimic, with a visor or glass or, a computer screen. Yeah. So that also increased, once the safety aspects were being addressed. And again, I think that's exactly what's happening now. And we're going to, exactly see that again. So cruising kind of taking off, and then trains was another way, that since a lot of people couldn't afford planes and trains, and planes and cruises, the trains ended up becoming, such a huge, saw a huge growth, aspect in the post pandemic.
Right.
And I wouldn't be surprised, that we get there. That the trains will also be trying to do some things. I do see some like see United States fare sales and sleeper cars, and
this time of year is probably the slower season for train travel because of weather and all that. But I'm seeing what Rocky Mountaineer and Amtrak are doing to encourage people to see the world, actually see the country via train, and we'll start seeing some of that messaging come to marketplace in April.
Family travel on a train. I just love that feeling. I mean, again, if everyone kind of get past the teenage angst and stress and whatever like that, that's got to be amazing.
There's still a romantic angle to
Mm.
train travel, and I've done a lot of it, not on a vacation, but there still is that romance of train travel. And as I said, companies like Rocky Mountaineer that have these domed windows where you could look up and see the Rockies as you're going from Canada to the United States, or with Amtrak going across country, seeing various stops. There's something beautiful about it, and the trains are making it easier and making the experience better for the traveler. And it's still one of the more cost-effective and efficient ways to travel.
Yeah, I don't think they should give up.
Nope.
There's some a kind of quick factoid here, as we're kind of coming near the end. In 1920, the U.S. rail system saw 47.3 billion passenger miles, where just 4 years before it only had 254,000. So there was a very big kind of rush into that direction. And again, we're keeping an eye on that, mostly taking the trains to go to the beaches. So it'd be kind of very, again, interesting to see. Again, all the amusement parks opening up again, everybody kind of getting out. But
Sure.
But people apparently staying close in these, like the first few years, versus kind of going, a lot of international, just to kind of keep unsure about the safety.
That's true, but then you're seeing, if you looked at the Super Bowl, Turkish Airlines was promoting in a big way. Ireland has their Green Button campaign to convince people to book, and it's not just seasonal. Now they're doing a full year on approach with TV and digital and all that. So international destinations want to make it easier for people to travel as they get past that domestic side and look to their bucket list for where else can they go.
Yeah. Then, and again, I personally think this is just kind of like, again, reading right out of our newspapers, the car, and, so now, family trips cross country, and, all the national parks saw huge amounts of increases, except this time we'll be doing it with electric cars, which is kind of, again, a very interesting kind of news story, that's going to be putting in there. The open road. And then what's natural from this? The RVs and buses and all of that going to be exploding. And RVs did have a good time.
The RVs have had a phenomenal growth and popularity over the last couple of years. There were companies that became the Airbnb of RVs, where you could say, I want to go away for 7 days, and you get to rent an RV. You couldn't get enough of them, and there were companies, You look at the Recreational Vehicle Industry Association, the Go RVing message exploded over the last couple of years. So
Yeah.
you're spot on with that.
Well,
It's a
not
great
me.
way to
History.
see the country.
History was spot on, and I'm just bringing it to to the table. But again, it's almost written out there. And here's something I know that this exists, but I've never heard it's called as a tin can tourist club, which is basically a place to bring your RV. And since I personally never RV'd, and I know there are RV campsites, so I don't know if this was the same thing, but it did look like this was in Gainesville, Florida, where maybe there'll be an increase in RV camps. That give a lot of other,
Sure.
aspects that you couldn't get kind of before, on that part. Well, that's the end of that I have here on the retrofuturism. But I think we're kind of coming to the end of our interview, and I think it was fun. Did you have fun?
I had the time of my life.
All right, great. Then I will hope to get a chance to do this again. Maybe in a year or two, and we can kind of double check our forecasts, and if anything else new, travel-y kind of comes down the board. I'll have a lot of that as a sector, and you can find more information about that on all of the digital Wheel of Fortune platforms, which would be, the website, Medium, LinkedIn, YouTube, things like that. Well, Ian, thank you very much for sharing.